What is up there, you guys? Welcome back to Sylvester. This week, as I promised, I will be covering education in particular, and I will be covering three important things that I hope will help you guys as you're making your decision whether to go to college or not. So the first thing is I will be covering a brief history of colleges and universities. The second thing that I will be going over is I will be going over 5 easy criteria to determine whether you should go to college or not. And this is very important because it's very, very key to have criteria whenever you're doing something. So if the criteria are met, then you can do it. They're easy to follow, easy to set up, so stay tuned for that. Lastly, the third item is I will be telling you what worked for me as I went through college and what did not work for me as well. So with that, let's jump right in. Okay, so the big debate I hear all the time is college or no college. Should I go to college or should I not go to college? And this can be asked by high schoolers, this can be asked by people thinking about going back to school. You name it, people have this question. It's a big question because honestly it takes a lot of years, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money to go back to school. So it's a very relevant, very real question that people have. And I think that this is especially true in business because there's a lot of business people in this world that say, well, hey, look at Bill Gates or whoever it is, they dropped out of college and they're a billionaire now. And then there's other people that say, well, my dad worked for a living all of his life and he could barely pop bricks fast enough to make money and it didn't work out for him or whatever the case may be. So it's a very real question. So the fundamental reason for this argument is that there is a ton of success in both of these directions, and at the same time there are a ton of unsuccessful people in both directions. So there's both success and failures within the same argument. And so you have these polarizing groups of people, one side versus the other side, trying to work it out with each other on whether or not to go to college. And it just kind of breaks down at that stage. So in order to set the stage for what is to come, I want to kind of delve into history a little bit. The history of colleges and universities actually dates back to about the 13th century of Europe. And they had 3 principal courses of study back then. They were law. You could become a lawyer, practice law, kind of govern or enforce the laws. They were medicine, which is kind of like a doctor. And then there was theology or religion, so basically teaching the religion of that time, which was kind of the Catholic faith, which was the church that was in power at that time. So those were the 3 principal key courses of study that you could pursue starting out with the earliest colleges and universities. A lot of you may be wondering where the term degree came in. And it was originally only one type of degree, and it was called a master or a doctor degree depending on which school you attended and where the school was located, kind of like if it was in France or Germany or wherever it was. So this degree typically took between 3 and 4 years to complete, and it was a pretty challenging degree. Upon completing the various degrees, the student was subjected to varieties of tests, examinations, etc., etc., etc. Upon passing, the student was allowed to teach at any other university or to practice his occupation, whichever one he chose. And both of those were very good because they made a ton of money. So the reason for going to college or university was pretty simple. Basically, go to college and then that increases your pay. So to put a degree versus no degree in a new perspective, let me kind of diagram out what some of the wages of the workers were. A typical peasant or an unskilled laborer, just kind of an ordinary Joe out there working back in the 13th century, earned about $1,400 per year. And this was very, very poor back then. You may think, ooh, that's not very much money at all. And in fact, it wasn't. They lived very, very poorly. But that was the ultimate bottom of the rung. If you move up the ladder a little bit, you had kind of a master carpenter or a skilled laborer, and they earned approximately $4,700 a year, kind of moving up in the world. But then you have the lawyer, and as best as I can figure out, they made approximately $277,000 per year as a salary. And this fluctuated between where you worked and yada yada yada, but the point being, that is a ton of money compared to like the normal peasantry or whatever. But here's the big catch. School costed a ton of money. And when I say a ton of money, tuition varied depending upon the teacher, the school, how much money it took to live, yada yada yada. In fact, one of the professors back in those days calculated how much money it actually took to go to school. And to go to university or college back then would have been about $92,000 in today's money. Now, if you multiply that out by 4 years, which on average 3 to 4 years it took them to go to school, That would cost about $368,000 US just to go to school for a normal 4-year degree. This included lodging, textbooks, tuition, professors, which they all charge different rates, so some were expensive, some were not expensive, depending on how much they thought that they were worth. So what all this kind of means is that if an unskilled laborer wanted to go to school, he had to save up the money or borrow it. And I calculated this out. If he never paid any expenses for anything, no cow feed, no whatever it was that he had to pay for, it would take him approximately 262 years of saving before he could afford the $300 and some thousand that college back then would take.
One eternity later.
So right about that time, some bright professor came along and said,
"Hey, we should start offering student loans."
And cha-la-la, student loans were born. So what this meant is that students could go to school and both work and pay their way as best they could. So upon graduation, if you even fell behind on payments just a little bit, you were kicked straight into jail. And this was kind of where debtor's prison came from. Just kidding, I don't actually know that. So fast forward to today. Does this all kind of sound familiar? High cost, long amount of time to completion, student loans, costly professors, etc. No wonder this is such a controversial issue. In fact, today, colleges and universities typically offer about 1,500 different degree paths that students can choose when they're getting ready to go to college. This, once again, with all the confusion surrounding which degree to get, kind of brings up the question, should I go to college or not? Now this is a very interesting question, because in a past video I went over how important it is to form goals, how important it is to have a plan for your life. And if you know what you want to do and you know what you want to accomplish, it's much easier to get to that goal if you know where you're going first. Duh. So in talking about college, first let's kind of go over all of the reasons why you should go to college. So first, there are certain degrees or career options or paths that require a degree. For example, doctors, lawyers, those are the two classic examples. The same is true for a lot of other degrees or career paths. Many jobs will require like a doctorate degree or an associate's degree or a Bachelor of Science degree or whatever the degree may be, a certain level of education in order to get that job. The more education you have, in theory, the more jobs unlock that you can get at a certain time period or whatever the case may be. The next reason in favor of college is that it is supposed to enhance your knowledge or enhance your capability. So college is meant to help you achieve your goals in life. Another reason that allegedly you will earn more money once you graduate college. And this can be true and this cannot be true depending on which degree field you go into, which job you get after you leave college. So now for the against. College is very expensive. Even today, if you're not planning, working your way through college, it can be very costly and you can get a ton of student loans. Now the next thing is that it takes a ton of time to go through college. On average, it takes between 2 and 8 years depending on your career path and how long or hard you study, etc. to complete your college degree. The third thing going against college is that I have found that knowledge is very teacher dependent. If you get a good teacher, you learn stuff. If you get a bad teacher, you learn almost nothing. And the biggest problem with that is that they usually charge the exact same amount of money per quarter as the good teachers. The last thing that I have going against college is that depending on what your goal in life is, I have found that college can actually discourage or inadequately prepare you for that goal. So, in summary, this is my list of 5 criteria on whether or not college is a good idea for you right now. Listen up, people! Number 1. Will this college degree assist me in learning the knowledge necessary to complete my goal? Number 2, can I work my way through college without student loan debt? If I cannot pay off all my tuition fees and if I cannot pay off all my student loan debt within 1 to 2 years upon graduation, don't go to college. Also along this line, how costly is the school? Is there a cheaper school or is this a very expensive kind of private school? There's all kinds of school options out there. The third criteria, do you have time? Am I willing to take off X number of years in order to complete a college degree? Because once you start, you're investing your time, you're investing your money, it would behoove you to complete that degree. Along that note, is college the most efficient way to teach me what I need to know? If there is a more efficient way, what is it? Like self-teaching, trade school, licenses, investing, mentorship, etc. There's all kinds of alternative ways, and I'll be getting to that in a different video. The fourth criteria. Have a definite executable goal that's about 5 to 10 years in length. So for your next 5 to 10 years, I would say from the time you either are planning to graduate college, or if you're thinking about not going to college, what you would be doing for the next 5 to 10 years. You gotta have that goal, because the biggest failures that I have seen are the people who want a degree but don't know what that degree should be, or don't know what that degree is. So then they go to college and they hop from degree to degree to degree to degree to degree, and they just say,
Well, I'm in college, I'm just undecided in my career.
and all the while these people go along and rack up student loans and bills and bills and bills. The fifth criteria. Do I have passion for my goal in life? And this is huge, because if you get a degree, use it. Do not just get a degree or focus on a goal just because you can or just because it pays well. That's a very, very bad idea to go into, because as you work at your future job, you can very, very easily become discouraged or kind of depressed because you don't actually love what you're doing. You want to focus on your degree because deep down you love it. Your end goal should drive you to success, not your degree. Your degree is only a stepping stone to get you to what your end goal is.
Now, if all your answers to the above criteria are yes, by all means, go to college.
But if any of those answers happen to be no, don't go to college at this time. This does not mean never go to college. It just simply means it may not be the right fit for you at this time, so don't waste your money and time on it right now. It may be just as simple as reevaluating, refining your plan, refining your goals, but I would encourage you not to go to college at this time if all of those 5 criteria are not met. Alright, so I've told you 5 criteria that can help you in deciding whether to go to college or not. Alright, so in summary, this last year, I graduated with a 2-year degree in business. Hooray! In summary, I'm very, very glad that I did it. It really helped to unlock job possibilities that I would not have otherwise. And as I am applying for jobs now, I'm really realizing how much that a 2-year college degree can benefit you. Now, a bachelor's degree, which is a 4-year degree, is not a bad thing. It's just a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, a little longer time to finish than an associate's degree. And at least in my experience, an associate's degree is plenty. You can really get a ton of jobs out there in the business field with your associate's degree. In my experience, some of the jobs that you may not be able to get with an associate's degree are the high-level management jobs. And this is only true going into them for your first time. If you work up to them in the company, you can totally get to them with time. Alright, so that's it for me. Remember those 5 criteria that I went over on whether or not you should go to college. Make them into a list, write those things down, analyze them a lot, because in reality, college is a giant decision in your life. It's going to be taking a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it really is crucial for you to take some time out of your day and to really analyze, should I or should I not go to college? With that, like it if you like it, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you next Thursday. Bye.